Welcome, everyone, to the Songwriters on Process podcast. My name is Benno Papari, and on this podcast, I take a deep dive into the writing process behind some of the world's best songwriters. By way of background, I am a former English professor. I have a PhD in English language and literature, and I'm a writer myself. So this is a conversation about writing between two writers. My goal has always been to treat songwriters the same way that we treat prose writers, just as writers, plain and simple. So that's all we focus on. I don't care about tour stories, favorite bands, how bands get their name, favorite foods, anything like that. This is, again, a deep dive into the songwriting process with some of the world's best songwriters. And with that, let's get into today's episode. And today on the pod, the return of Molly Tuttle. Molly Tuttle, her latest album is called So Long, Little Miss Sunshine on None Such Records. That is, let me repeat that. It is called So Long, Little Miss Sunshine. What I did not put in this episode was about 30 seconds of nonstop gushing before we started, because I love this album. It's fantastic. Give it a listen. It is great. Tuttle won a Grammy Award in 2024 for Best Bluegrass Album for her album City of Gold. She's a multiple winner for the International Bluegrass Music Awards, Americana Music Awards. You can look at her Wikipedia page or any page, and it's all out there. But she won a Grammy last year for Best Bluegrass Album. I last had Tuttle on the podcast in 2021, and I interviewed Molly with Katie Pruitt. So it was the three of us. And give that a listen, because it's interesting to listen to the differences interviewing songwriters during the height of COVID in 2021, when people's process had to change. They didn't know what was happening. There was all that anxiety, versus today. So I've interviewed a few people over the past year that I interviewed during COVID. And it was, again, noting those differences in the process between now and then. That's worth a listen. I'll link to that old episode in the description. This is how disciplined Molly Tuttle is when it comes to songwriting. When she went to Berklee, and when she was at Berklee, she refused to have a regular phone. She insisted on having a flip phone. She needed a flip phone because she didn't want to be distracted from her craft of songwriting and practice and playing music. And she felt like a regular phone would distract her. So she had a flip phone. No one else had flip phones, but she had a flip phone. And I love that story. And because of that, well, not just because of that, but maybe that's why she's producing such fantastic music. It is the discipline. Again, the latest album is called So Long, Little Miss Sunshine. It is out now. It is fantastic. Here's my interview with Molly Tuttle. And I want to go right out of the gate by asking you, because I've got the track listing up here, and it opens up with Everything Burns. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm telling you this, but what really struck me was, like, right out of the gate, the images. The first line, see the arsonist standing in the burning sun, with the stars and the stripes and the Tommy gun. I mean, it's such a stark image right out of the gate. So was that intentional? I guess two-part question, right? Like, how did that come about with the track listing? Like, just the first thing you hear is that, which just drew me in immediately.
Yeah, I think, like, that song, we felt like it was kind of one that we wanted to put first, not only because lyrically, but also because it, like, had the big guitar moment, and it just kind of kicks off the record, like, with a bang in a way. It felt like one that I wouldn't necessarily have initially thought would be the first track on the record, but when we finished it, it felt like it sort of made a statement of what kind of record this was going to be, and it felt like it was kind of a bold statement right off the bat. So yeah, that was one that I wrote back in probably around this same time that we were doing our last interview, maybe a little before it. I wrote it in probably the summer of 2020. And then fast forward 4-ish years later, we recorded it last fall. It's all just kind of about, like, the rise of these authoritarian figures and the division that I feel like we have in our society. But yeah, it did kind of feel like a timely song and one that we felt like would be an interesting way to start the record.
Well, the images are very literal
Mhm.
in the song, and I think I get the sense kind of throughout the album. There's a lot of those literal images.
Yeah.
Um, is that easier to go for as a writer than the metaphorical images that tend to be less direct?
I think on this new record, on my latest record, I feel like I did go with more literal kind of imagery, and even though some of it is still like a metaphor, like the chorus of that song, "Everything Burns," that is kind of a metaphor, but um, I think that's what separated these songs from my last two records, which were in the bluegrass vein. When I'm writing a bluegrass song, I do tend to use more metaphorical language, or maybe I'm telling a story that's kind of a metaphor for something that's happened to me in my life, but it's wrapped in this language that I feel like a lot of the old folk ballads and older kind of music that I grew up with is more uses more metaphor. And for me, like writing more literally took this record into a more kind of contemporary space that felt like it was things happening right now. So yeah, I think that was something that I definitely played around with more on this new record.
Yeah, what was the impetus behind that decision? Just with the more literal imagery.
I just wanted to make a record that felt um more like rooted in the present time and kind of more personal to me, things I was thinking and feeling and experiencing. So yeah, these songs were written over the past couple years, but they were kind of more personal and I guess just especially the songs like the last track, Story of My So-Called Life, it's basically autobiographical things that had really happened, and um, I felt like for this record, it told more of the story of who I am and was kind of more of that solo record rather than, a conceptual record or writing songs like trying to fit into a specific vein or style.
I forgot if I asked you this last time, but do you like to journal also?
I do, yeah. I go through phases. Like when I was younger, I journaled all the time. I definitely write down like song ideas a lot, but I kind of go through phases of journaling on and off. Yeah.
So do those when you're in one of those journaling phases, are you journaling about the topics sometimes that see their way into your songs?
Yeah, sometimes it can be like a good way to come up with a song idea is just kind of free writing. And then maybe I didn't even know that something was on my mind and I start writing and then it'll just kind of appear on the page. I'm like, oh, I could write a song about this thing that I'm clearly thinking about, at least subconsciously, because it's kind of showing up in my journal writing for the day. Um, and yeah, other times like doing like a writing exercise, maybe just kind of like picking a topic to write about, doing like a little free form writing about something, and then that can spur like a line for a song or a song idea.
So do you do a lot of those writing exercises?
I did when I was in college a lot. Like I went to Berklee and in my songwriting classes they would have us do writing exercises. I was pretty like diligent about doing them every day, and then um but I don't do them as much anymore. I kind of more if I'm journaling just write whatever is coming to me in the moment.
I actually interviewed yesterday, Hayes Carl,
Oh, cool.
uh, and I've known Hayes for years, and
He's
he's been
great,
on the
yeah.
bunch. Yeah, he's great,
Yeah.
and the common theme. I first interviewed him back in like 2013, and so I've known him for a while, and he's always would. His issue was that he was always very undisciplined. Like
Mhm.
his whole thing was he would do whatever he could. He would do whatever he could do not to write because
Yeah.
he would avoid it as much as he could, and finally realized like he had to make a change. There was that introspection. So does that happen with you? I think from album to album, are you going back and saying, okay, that didn't work? I mean, how much? I wish I were more introspective with my writing, but are
Mhm.
you introspective in the sense of thinking about things that didn't work in the past that you've got to change?
Um, I mean, I relate to what Hayes is saying. Like, I'd also, I get in such a zone of touring that I can't really write a song when I'm on tour doing like 5 or 6 shows in a row, and then it takes all my energy to just get ready for the show. So then when I get home, I'm not in that headspace anymore. So it's hard to get back in the groove of it. So I do a lot of my writing when I have longer chunks of time at home. And being in Nashville, it's nice because I can, schedule writing sessions with so many great writers in town here. So I can do that to kind of, if I know I'm, not going to be necessarily in the writing headspace and I need to get back into it, maybe I can plan for some writes, put them on my calendar just so I know they're coming, to at least put it on my radar that I'm going to get back in that zone, I guess. But yeah, I'm always working on music in one way or another, but it can be tricky to have that constant writing schedule or like practice when there's like so many other things that I need to be giving my energy and attention to.
It's a balance, isn't it? I mean, I feel
Mhm.
like when we're engaged in something like really intense, in your case, touring, the reaction is, okay, I need to decompress
Yeah.
and do nothing. But then there's that anxiety of, okay, I probably should be writing
Yeah.
because I'm not touring. And so does that happen a lot where there's that push and, tug of war of I should be writing, but I should be, you know, zoning out to kind of
Yeah.
reset myself?
Yeah, I try not to like get overly burnt out. Like if I'm really not in the mood to write, then I don't like force myself to, but I do try to like get if I can just like break through that feeling of I'd rather just, zone out or rest. Maybe I let myself do that for a day and then I'm like, okay, well I've had time to do that. Now I can um try to write a song or do something productive, work on an old song, this or that, even just to kind of ease back into the process.
So do you have notebooks, things like that going back years full of song ideas?
Yeah, I have lots of notebooks, especially from when I was younger. I didn't write as much on my computer or my phone, which is now kind of what I do. Like I'll just write on a computer document because I don't have the best handwriting and I lose stuff all the time. I don't like going back and looking through my old notebooks and it's like all scribbles to me. I can't even understand what I'm saying half the time. So I just write on my computer these days. But I do have lots of old notebooks with lots of ideas in them.
So you don't go back to those ever?
Not really.
Oh,
I look through
really?
my ideas. I mean, for years now, I've compiled ideas like on an app or on my computer. So I just kind of do that on my notes app. Whether I'm on my phone or my computer, I look through those all the time. But my old journals are, I don't know, maybe I should go through them, but I just don't really because they're so old.
Yeah, the advantage to me, at least, when I do those things is if quite literally, if I see my handwriting, it kind of takes me back to that emotional space that I was
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, totally.
Um, but like you, I have horrible handwriting, so
Mhm.
I know it's always a struggle.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you do? Are there tricks that you have if you find that things aren't happening? Um, I'm not going to call it writer's block, but in a rut.
Mhm.
Are there tricks that you use to kind of break out of that?
Um, Yeah, I mean, because I do have so many ideas saved and so many old scraps of songs, that's kind of my go-to is just going back to an old song from years ago. Maybe it's a song I mostly liked, but there was one section I didn't quite like. Or a lot of times I'll end up going back to an old song and just rewriting maybe the entire song, but taking the one part of it, maybe the hook or something that I liked about it. That can be something that helps break loose the writer's block of feeling daunted by starting from scratch is just kind of going back and finding something that I maybe partially liked, but it wasn't in like a state that I would want to record it. So like an old, maybe just a verse and a chorus I'd written a couple years ago, going back to that.
So you've got half-written songs from that go way back, and
Yeah, I have so
so
many.
do you set things if things aren't happening, then do you deliberately set it aside for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I'll finish a song, but I just don't love it for whatever reason. I'll just put it in a Dropbox of my songs. I have probably 50 or 60 in this one that I've never recorded and maybe even more at this point, but Um, I mean, definitely more, but kinda organized, I probably have about 50 or 60 kind of songs that haven't I've never done anything with, so I can always go back to those and check them out, listen, maybe it inspires me to, "Oh, I wanted to write about that one topic, but I didn't actually really like how the song turned out, I could try again," or take part of the song and rewrite the verses or the chorus or whatever.
I one of the quotes I always give to songwriters is, I had the writer Anthony Doerr on. I interviewed him a few years ago, and I asked him about. He's a novelist, and he wrote a book called All the Light We Cannot See, and won the
Oh,
Pulitzer
yeah.
Prize for
I
fiction. Yeah,
have that book, I've actually haven't read it, but it's on my list, so I own it.
oh, it's an amazing. He's
I'll have to
fantastic.
read it.
Yeah, he's I mean, you talk about imagery, and that's all of his stuff is good. That book just blew me away,
Cool.
and I asked him about writer's block, and he
Mhm.
said, I don't believe in writer's block. He said, writer's block is a failure of courage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he sees writer's block as you just can't be afraid to write the bad stuff. Like, nothing is so precious that you can't get it out of there. And back to kind of my discussion with Hayes was Hayes said, like, the first thing that always comes out is horrible. And he knows
Yeah.
it's horrible, but he has to
Mhm.
get write that bad stuff to get to the good stuff, which to me would be really frustrating because you know
Yeah.
that what's first coming out isn't that good. Anyway, I'd like to get your general take more on the Anthony Doerr quote is
Mhm.
and not being afraid to write the bad stuff first. I mean, is it really a failure of courage?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, anyone can sit down and just start writing, like, it's not I guess writer's block would kinda be more like you just feel like all your ideas suck, so you don't even wanna write them down. There's kind of like a cheesy quote that I heard when I was at music school, like, writer's block is just like being afraid to write the crap, but the crap is the best fertilizer. That's what they would say to
That's not
us.
cheesy at all. That's real. I like that. Wait, I'm going to write that one down. Did someone come up with that at school, or is that? I'd love to know where that came from.
I think that's from, Pat Pattison, who is like and now I feel bad for saying it's cheesy because what if he hears it and then he's like, "How dare you?"
I love that
No,
quote. I'm
he's a
going to
great
totally use
songwriting
that.
teacher. He's a wonderful teacher at Berklee, and he has a book, How to Writing Better Lyrics, which is really great. I read that book when I was in school.
Was there a song? What song on the album was the easiest to write that maybe just was the one that came out all at once that just was felt effortless?
The one we probably wrote in just, like, one sitting was, um, the song "Old Me, New Wig,"
Yeah.
and that one we didn't a lot of the songs on the record I kinda tinkered with, rewrote different parts of them, rewrote certain lyrics, or reworked the bridge or whatever. That one just sorta came about in one couple hours session, and then it pretty much just became like, went on the album pretty much how we wrote it initially. We even wrote the little, like, guitar solo thing that you hear halfway through. So yeah, the arrangement and the song just kinda stayed the same from how we first wrote it, so that was definitely the one that came the most easy, I think, out of all of them. A lot of the other ones we just reworked and rearranged and rewrote and stuff like that.
So when it happens that quickly, does that give you a sense of unease? Like, wait a minute, this was too easy. I need to tinker with this. Or do you feel like, okay, there's a reason why it happened so quickly and we're not going to touch it?
I don't know if I thought about it too much, like, that song just it was its own little thing, it's, like, 2.5 minutes long, and it just felt like it was this fully formed moment on the record, and yeah, I mean, I had so many other things to worry about with my other songs, parts that I wasn't happy with, and that one, I guess it just kinda it was what it was, and we recorded it, and we all liked it, so, yeah.
All right. All right. The flip side then, is there a song on the album that you just was a real pain in the ass? You wanted to give up on, really, really struggled with s- out of all the ones? And was there one that stood out in that sense?
Um I guess one that took the longest kind of rewriting and working was maybe the highway notes because I just had the guitar part for that one and basically nothing else for years. I would try to rewrite it and write words to it and then start from scratch and throw it out and redo it. So we wrote that one a few different times and then finally it became wrote the lyrics, but then we still didn't have like a bridge and didn't have like a guitar solo moment. All I had was this kind of finger picked part that you hear throughout the song. So that one kind of transformed when we got into the studio. We had written like a third verse that we didn't end up using, and then we instead wrote like this bridge that kind of went into a guitar solo. Um, and then kind of turned one part into like an alternate chorus that you hear at the end. So yeah, that one went through a bunch of different iterations. I don't think there was a moment when I was like getting super frustrated and like I don't even want to record this song because I knew I really liked it, but um it did take a long time to kind of become what it is on the record.
I feel like when I interview songwriters, there's always one song on an album that has a part in there from, 5, 10, 15,
Yeah.
however many years ago.
Yeah,
Are there
totally.
any songs like that that have those parts that you wrote a long time ago that you thought, "Oh, there's a place for this now"?
Yeah, like a handful of the songs on the record were started maybe 5 years ago. Like the song Golden State of Mind. That was the first one I wrote with Ketch, and that's probably one of the older ones on there. Everything Burns we started 5 years ago now, and rewrote parts of it for the record, but kept some of it the same. And so yeah, this was an album of maybe 3 or 4 of the songs were probably like 5 years old, and then the rest I wrote in the last year or two. But I really kind of mined these songs that I'd been working on for years to see which ones were going to work. And when I sent all of the songs to Jay Joyce, I just kind of sent him this big folder of like all my songs. I was like, just listen through, see what you like. And then we settled on these 12 songs. But yeah.
So I want to ask you about the ritual specifically, and I think you touched on this briefly, but when you are writing lyrics, are you ever a pen and paper person or strictly a computer/phone person?
No, I do write. I write with pen and paper too sometimes. Um, yeah, I mean, I try to write it different different ways. A lot of times I'm just faster on the computer, and then again, like I said, I can't like even read my own handwriting sometimes. I don't have very good handwriting and my hand starts to cramp up, so I get a little frustrated, but then sometimes I think there is like merit to writing by hand cuz you can um write so many more ideas out. You're not like deleting stuff. Sometimes I'll delete a section and later be like, "Oh crap, what did I write? Like now I can't get it back." So, um yeah, I write with pen and paper and on the computer or on my phone, just whatever is like easiest and whatever I have on hand.
There is a lot of research. They've done this research with university students and found that if people who take notes, students who take notes with pen and paper have far greater recall.
Yeah, I actually read something about that. So then I was like trying to write a song only using pen and paper. I think I read an article about that a couple months ago and it inspired me to not use my computer for the next song I wrote.
So I'm going to get very specific. Then you're going to laugh when I ask you this, but when you are, if you do use pen and paper, and you go to cross things out, are you crossing it out with a single line or scribbling furiously so you can't see that word anymore?
I just crossed with a line because what if I don't want to like make it so I can't read what I wrote before.
I mean, you'd be surprised. That's what I would do too.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised the people that feel or they'll. That's I think you're right. That's the danger with writing lyrics on a computer is when you
Mhm.
delete it, you never know if you may need it later on.
Yeah. I think if I wrote
Um,
a lyric that I thought was really embarrassing and I never wanted anyone to see it, I would probably scribble it so much to where you couldn't read it, and I've probably done that before.
do you ever how often do you get ideas when you're, let's say, I mean, I think there's a couple things, right? You could say self locomotion, like walking, anything
Mhm,
like that, or driving. Cause I mean, the songwriters all like every time I do these interviews, it's always I go out and take a walk and the
mhm.
walk gives me ideas. So how often does that happen?
Yeah, I feel like walking for me, that's like a way to kinda clear my head and then ideas sort of pop into my mind. Driving too, like, listening to music, sometimes I'll hear a song and then get, like, an idea for another song, so a lot of times in the car, I have music on. Um, but yeah, I feel like anything where you're, like, not actively thinking about something, like, sometimes I'll be in the shower and then, like, it's the only time of the day when I'm not actively, like, doing something else, and then, like, a song idea will pop into my head. Um But yeah, whenever I have time to kind of take a walk, clear my head, and that's always great for coming up with ideas.
So is there a time of day? Do you have any kind of ritual? Maybe it's a room, or do you write at night? Are you a morning person? Is there a time when you're most effective?
I'm definitely more of a night person. Um, I feel like that's when my brain finally like wakes up. I don't know if that's a product of like being on tour and that's when you like play a show. And so I get like this burst of energy, but also I've always kind of been like more of a night person. That's always when I would like practice guitar and so that's kind of when I feel like I'm finally getting into the headspace to be creative. I don't know why I'm like just not a morning person at all. I feel like my brain is not awake at all until like 4 or 5 p.m.
So
Um,
you're writing at like when you say night, are you writing through the night?
Not usually. Maybe if I, like, lived alone, I would, but, yeah, I think, like, if I'm by myself, I might, yeah, write, like, until late at night, but, yeah. Now I write a lot with my partner, Ketch Secor, and he's not really a night writer like I am, so we kinda write during the day. I can't really write in the morning, but that's probably when he can write the most.
Is there a room, or does that not matter? Is room or favorite couch, anything like that? Do you have a certain is that part of a ritual or no?
No, I mean, I'm barely home, so I don't have the luxury to have, like, a special place where I'll write songs in a hotel room, in the car, driving, but, like, when I'm at home, maybe in the living room, I have, like, a little office music space, but for whatever reason, I don't actually like going in there.
Oh,
I like
really?
just
Why
kind of
that's
being in the living room.
yeah. Wow, so you don't like being in that space. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I set it all up, I'm like, "This is my music room," and I, like, never go in there.
the advantage to what you're telling me though is that you can write anywhere. That's my fear is always if I make it too ritualistic,
Right.
then it's like, well, I'm not in my favorite room. I can't write now.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, that makes
but
sense.
that's a tremendous asset that you have that you're able to write in all of those places. And you write and think about that. I mean, I wish I were like that. And I tried to get more like that where I don't feel like, okay, I'm not in my setting. So,
Right, yeah.
I can't be writing. All right, let's end with this. So, I forgot if we talked about this last time again, but let's talk about other types of art, whether it's reading, visual art, anything like that. How much how much reading do you get to do, or does other type of art besides songwriting influence your songwriting?
Right, I love to read, but, like, I feel like I've just kind of gotten out of the habit of always reading a new book. I read, like maybe I'll every couple months I'll finish a book that I really love, but I do feel like books give me so many songwriting ideas, I love it, like, um I think my last record before this one, City of Gold, like, I remember I was reading Angle of Repose by Wallace Stegner, and that totally, like, inspired so many of the songs on the album. It's all about, like, these mining towns, and then we ended up writing a bunch of songs about, like, the California Gold Rush and stuff that kind of ended up, like, being a whole theme of the album. But yeah, I mean, I know I should read more because that's, like, probably one of the biggest sources of song inspiration to me is just, like, reading those words, and they kind of jog song ideas a lot, but, yeah, I feel like movies too can do that or especially, like, listening to other music and great songwriters, you kind of listen to their I feel like I'll listen to, like, a song by Joni Mitchell or Bob Dylan or just, like, anyone who's, like, one of the greats, and then you're like, "Oh, I see what they did there," like, that's kind of like a way to they take these different common song forms and sort of make them their own. Um, so sometimes I'll write a song and be like, "I wanna write a song like this other song." So yeah, I think music and books are just such great inspirations to me.
I think you're the first person to mention Wallace Stegner.
Oh,
I love it. So,
actually,
were there?
someone
Go
gave me
ahead.
that book on tour because I have a song about Grass Valley, California, which is where I went a lot as a kid to these different music festivals, and then the book is kind of based in Grass Valley, so someone had given it to me at a show, they put it in my green room and yeah, it was like so nice because it kind of related to some of the songs I'd written in the past, but also inspired me to write some new songs.
So are there themes in those? Obviously, you mentioned themes, but are there, when you read those, are there certain images or lines that you see and you think, wow, I've got to incorporate that into a song as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've had songs where I take like a little passage, maybe just 2 or 3 words from a book and kind of write it down and save it for later and maybe work it into a lyric somehow. Yeah.
Would you say, are you an author person or more of like a genre person?
Hmm. No, I feel like I don't read. I guess I'm not someone who normally finds one author and like reads all of their books, but I have a few favorite authors that I'll do that. Like I've read quite a few like Jane Austen books. I've read like of the kind of more recent books that come out. I really like Sally Rooney. I've read a handful of her books. Not, but I don't know. I think I'm not like a good enough reader to go through and read like every every book someone's ever written if they've written like a bunch of books. Um so yeah, I have my couple favorites, but I think I'm more of just like I like fiction and I like reading classic literature sometimes and yeah.
So Kindle or hard copy when it comes to books?
Well, now I'll just buy the actual books. When I was in college, I loved my Kindle because I could take it on the bus, and I went all through college without a smartphone. Like all my friends had them, and I kept my flip phone because I wanted to have more like not procrastinate practicing guitar. Basically, I was like, I know I'll practice more if I don't get a smartphone. But then on the bus, I would take the bus to college like for an hour each way every day, and so I'd just bring my Kindle. I actually read like so much when I was in college, but it was all on my Kindle because it was easy. I didn't have to like I was carrying it around, so it was so light. But then I read an article about how you don't remember books as well if you read them on a Kindle, kind of like what you were saying about writing stuff
Where is
down.
this study? Really? I, uh, I, you actually read that? I've never heard that
I
before.
saw some well, it was like when I was in college reading on my Kindle, and then I read like if you're not holding the book and like flipping the pages, you don't remember stuff as well. So then I was like, "Oh, I guess I need to like lug around books again, not just bring my Kindle everywhere."
Huh. See, I have no romance to the hard printed copy at all. Like
Yeah.
I spent so many years in the stacks for my dissertation that I have no romance attached to the smell of the book or the feeling
Yeah.
of the page. But I will tell you this though. I mean, because I'm 100% Kindle,
Mhm.
iPad person when
Yeah.
it comes to, I really have not bought, and for better or for worse, I've not bought a physical copy forever, but I do read every day. But here's what I noticed. When people ask me what books I'm reading, I can't tell them because I don't look at the title at the cover of the book.
Mhm.
And I'd have to go to my Kindle. That's the problem. I realized, I'm
Oh,
like, if you'd ask me what books I'm reading, I could tell you maybe the title. I couldn't tell you the author, but if I had the
right.
hard copy, I'd see it every time.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And it
I feel
drives
that
me,
way with music. Sometimes people are like, "What are you listening to right now?" And I'm like, "I wanna open up Spotify because I literally, like, can't even remember." I don't know
yeah.
why that would definitely not happen if I, like, still had CDs and stuff.
And I'm like, I don't know what I'm reading, but I'm reading two books.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So last follow up to that is, if you're reading a book and you don't like it, can you put it away or do you have to finish it no matter how bad it is?
No, I'm, like, the worst about just reading, like, half of a book. I think, like, 100 pages is kind of my limit to where if I don't, like, love the book, I'll read, like, 100 pages and then just stop, even though I want to, like, power through sometimes. It's just hard for me. This is why I've, like, now started getting if there's a book that I want to finish, but it's, like, a little dry or just, like, hard to get through, I might download it on Audible too and then just listen and then read and listen and read.
See, I wish I could do that. I can do that with some types of books, but I feel like if it's a fiction book, I
Yeah.
really need to see the words on the page because I like to see the language.
Yeah.
With other like memoirs, things like that, I have no problem
Right.
books on tape. But where the language is important, I feel like for
Yeah.
me at least, I've got to see
Totally.
it.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely absorb it better looking at it, but, sometimes if I'm having a hard time getting through a book, I'll, like, get it on Audible too.
And that's it for the latest episode of Songwriters on Process. You can find all of the old episodes on all major streaming platforms and probably some minor ones as well. You can also find them on the Songwriters on Process website. I started the site back in 2011, so that means there are hundreds upon hundreds of interviews with some of the world's best songwriters. So take a deep dive into some of those episodes. They are all great. Of course, I'm biased. Also, shameless plug, my book, Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir by Mark Morton with Benno Papari, that is me, is out now on Hachette Books and in all major bookstores. Mark is a good friend of mine. He is the guitarist in the metal band Lamb of God. And so we collaborated on his memoir. I'm biased, but that's a damn good book. Again, it is called Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir. And lastly, if you want to get in touch, go to the Songwriters on Process website. You can fill out a handy contact form and it'll get to me that way. You can also email me at ben@songwritersonprocess.com. I'm all ears. Send me your comments, your suggestions, your complaints, people you want me to interview. I get great suggestions all the time. I can't respond to all of the emails because I get a lot of them, but I do read all of them. And let me know your thoughts. If you have ideas for people you want me to interview, there's your chance. And with that, I am out. See you next time.